Hello everybody, welcome to another Woodworking Wisdom. Something a little bit different today. We're being joined by Jim from our export team, and Jim's also a member of a local charity which is Axminster Skatepark. And we've got a really cool little project that we're doing today. Jim, could you tell us a little bit more about why we're making this project today?
Certainly, Ben. Yeah. As you say, I'm a trustee for Axminster Charity Skate Park, which is a local skate park down the road, and it's run by volunteers who are charged with raising the money to keep the park going, any ground improvements and things like that. And we've got a whole raft of bigger plans and things to do down there. Essentially, please look at our website, axminsterskatepark.co.uk for more information. But we hope to raffle this board off to raise some money to go towards keeping the park open.
Good stuff. So yeah, we've started to make a jig, and we're going to show you a little clip of how we did that in a moment. But we're going to start layering up layers of veneer in our little mould that we've put together. And we're going to compress all that together, and hopefully we're going to get that nice sort of skateboard shape, which is quite a complex shape. So we've made our jig. We're going to clear the decks now and glue up each of the veneers, and then we're going to sandwich it all between. We've got this, and we've got a little lid which we'll show you in a moment, which forms the mould of the shape of the skateboard. So yeah, we're going to clear the decks and we'll see you in a minute. We're going to glue this up, but like Jim says, visit that Axminster Skate Park website. Lots of cool information on there and a really great resource for our local youngsters. And Jim, you skate too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, even though I'm knocking on 47 now, still haven't got the hang of it, but I'm happy to die trying.
That's right. Yeah, it's got a great place to practice in that park. It's a really great facility for all our local skaters. Okay, so we're going to start up the gluing process now. There is a sequence in which we need to glue these together, and we're creating what is essentially like a plywood. So we've got two different grain directions. If we have a look down on the bench here, this is the top facing sheet, and also there's one on the bottom, and they've been sanded so they're really smooth, and you can feel the difference of those top and bottom sheets. So we're going one with the long grain, and then another with the long grain. We don't worry about little imperfections like this because they're going to be sandwiched in the middle. And then you can see that we have a cross grain, so the grain's running side to side, forwards, long grain, side grain, and then we've got another two sheets going along the length. So basically you have two running with the long grain, then a short grained one, we have a long grain one in the middle, a short grain, and then another two long grained ones. And important that we keep these nice sanded faces on the outside of the of each face. So both of the faces outside are nice and smooth. Okay, so we're going to start the gluing up process. We've got to just observe that we've got that smooth side down, that we're going to put glue on this one, and it's going to go in our mould. So we're going to use a glue roller as an applicator. Jim's going to do all the gluing, so we need a nice generous amount of glue on this, using the glue roller, and we're using a TITEBOND 3, which is, once it's gone off, it's going to be a little bit more resistant to the water. Okay. So, I'm going to pop this over into our mould, and we want a kind of good overhang each end. So I'm just going to kind of put my hands so that we've got a nice equal overhang. You can see the way that glue is starting to form the piece of wood. It's starting to shrink on one side or expand on this glue side, creating this, but we're going to squish this down in a minute. So next layer. So another straight one, not quite as smooth on that top. Brilliant. So you can see Jim's given a nice generous amount of glue. We don't want any kind of dry patches or any voids, and we'll line this up as best we can. I know some of them are just slightly different sizes, but that's going to sit there until we do our next slice. And this is one of the cross-grained ones, and you can see it's really kind of floppy along the length. Easy way to tell the difference, and of course that you've got the grain running side to side. Brilliant. Getting through these quick, Jim. got the knack now. Excellent. And I think these cross-grained ones were just ever so slightly longer.
Okay.
So we can have a little bit of overhang on one end. That's looking good. And then when we press this down, we'll just have to be cautious about getting it all in line that way. Cool. Looking good so far. Look good. So next layer. You get an RSI from that glue bottle.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Not good for my.
Okay, do you want me to do one? Give
Yeah,
give a break.
Yeah.
Let's go. We might need to fill up the glue bottle again. So a bit more glue in the bottle, and off we go again. And good to have a surface that you can kind of go off the edges with, so that because this glue's got to go right to the edge, and we don't want to make a big mess on our bench if we can avoid it. So now we want this one. Just important to check that we haven't got the last one, which that has that sanded edge. We want that on the outside, so we're still working with this sort of rougher material. Shall I do this one as well, Jim?
Crack on,
You do the last one, the crowning glory. So this board's a little bit different. It has a couple of kind of undulations across the width of it. So when I'm rolling this way, it's leaving patches. So I have to come across the grain just to get down into those little low spots. Not perfectly flat, and these you know, a thin piece of wood like this will change shape as it kind of takes on moisture and dries out again. It's going to shrink and expand, so we can expect a little bit of movement, especially on something this thin. I might just get a brush and just brush it in, because we don't want any air pockets in this if we can avoid them. So I might just get a little brush, because the roll is just a little bit too wide to get into those low spots. So we can use the excess glue that we've already got, and I'm just going to try and get in some of these patches. Job. So again, just dragging that glue across the surface, trying to hit those low spots. And then, yeah, it's the last face. So now, we want to be a bit careful we don't pop that down on the glue. What I might do, Jim, is just get a bit of a fresh piece of ply. We'll just swap that one out, I think. I know, we can't because it's got the thing on top there. We'll just lift this one, because this is our outside face. We could sand the glue off, but really we want to keep it nice and clean if we can. That's it, well done. Nice one, thanks Jim. So yeah, last one.
Good one.
And Jim's just tested that he's got the rough face we want to apply the glue on, that sanded face is going to be you know, facing out. Okay, so we're going to pop this last kind of facing veneer on, and this is going to be the bottom of the board. So we're just going to push it down just to get everything kind of lined up, and then we've got the top section of our mould. First of all, we're using a little interface, so we've used a cutting pad as almost like a little interface. Any lumps and bumps that we may have on our mould, hopefully this is going to smooth all of that out. So, you know, it's a bendable material, it's nice and flat and smooth, and it's going to take that shape when we put the clamps on. So we're just going to get rid of this bottom layer of these two plies. I will separate them so they don't glue together, but we can just slide that off. Pop that to one side for the moment. And there we go. I've done some little marks on our mould. I've done a couple of lines this side and down on the mould here, and some little kind of bumps this side. One line that would match up with that one. I just put my elbow in the glue. So that we know which way this kind of sits together. Okay, this is going to compress when we pop on our little kind of load-bearing piece of wood here. And we're going to slowly wind this down all together with some star knobs. So we have the, was this 8mm or 10mm?
This is an M10.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got some of these little star knobs. Let me grab a little knife or something we can just open these with.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, you got it? Oh, it's just a lid like that, eh? So these are our little UJK star knobs, and these are the M10 ones. So they are a plastic knob, have a threaded insert in them, a little threaded brass insert, and these are just going to, we're going to use these to apply that downward pressure. So just bringing them up 2 for now. Just put a light pressure on so it's got it held. And this is our first ever attempt. So we got all our fingers and toes crossed.
If it comes good, we'll be going into business shortly after.
That's right, skateboard makers. And we want to bring these all down kind of around the same rate. So we're doing a bit on one, then we're kind of changing over to the next one. I guess you don't really want to start at one end and work to the other. That's going to kind of squish one end and make it a bit more difficult to align. Because this is Celotex that we've used as the mould, so it's not a very hard material, and that's why we're using that cutting mat as a kind of like an interface. A long way to go on these. So all we have here is a piece of MDF. This is an old bit of worktop. You can see where it's been rounded. It's got a bull nose on it. This is Celotex. We have our cutting mat as a little interface to smooth out any kind of saw marks we made when we were cutting the mould. And then a piece of OSB. And this could be anything. We've used tulip because it's what we've got available. But it could be any type of strong wood really. And then of course in between we've got our maple laminations. And we're expecting to get a slightly softer curve than what the mould is cut to. Just because the wood has to kind of bend around that shape. So it's not going to be the exact same. It's not like a like a resin mould or anything like that. And we want to get these nice and tight. Something like a boa wrench or something like that might help. This is starting to get a bit tough on my hands. How are yours, Jim?
Yeah. Let's get old arthritis.
Yeah. So we're getting a little bit of squeeze out of the glue on the edge here, which is great. It's what we want. I'm just going to pop this up on the side, Jim. We've got this threaded bar here is rotating as I tighten down on it. So I'm just going to do that and that up. But you can see it's starting to take that form of the mould. So I'm just trying tightening up this so that then we can rotate this one without the threaded bar turning as we go. Nylock bolts on the bottom, nylock nuts on the bottom. I think with a bit of downwards pressure on top we can get these really tight. So just sort of on my tippy toes putting my body weight onto these little cross sections and see if we can get a few more turns out of these. Oh, I think we're about there, Jim. Okay, so we've taken our laminated deck out of the mould. Now our mould had quite a steep curve on it, so we've come out with a very sort of shaped board, and it's very kind of curvy down the length, and also these kicks where the nose and the tail are. Originally we wanted to make what was called a pull board, but I think we're going to have to change that design now because of this these deep curves. Jim, could you maybe explain a little bit about the shape of the decks?
Yeah, sure. So this was initially what I was thinking of making. It has a bit more of a sort of a gradual concave and incline on both ends, and also at the sides. The main difference really is this is more for cruising around or skating pools, swimming pools and ramps. This one's more for street skating, doing more tricks, jumping up and down and stuff. So the actual concave here that we've made actually helps more with flip tricks and things like that. So that's the main difference between the two, but hopefully we'll get around to making one of these ones.
Yeah, we'll have another go.
Yeah.
So, like I say, this is our first attempt with making a homemade mould, and I think we've learned a little bit that we don't need quite so much of a curve. So, on Mark II, I think we're going to go for something a bit closer to that, the gentle curve. But as we've got this, and we don't want to waste that, we're going to use this more of a kind of popsicle shape, I think we call it. So first thing we need to do is make a template, and all we've done is used a piece of cardboard. We put the deck on top and drawn right the way round, and also really important that we mark off where these where the trucks are going to go. So we've marked off where we're going to drill on our piece of our laminated deck, and we've used a pre-existing deck as a template to do that. Okay, so we've found the centre point on this. Important that we keep it quite central for the trucks to sit on the flat of the deck underneath. So Jim's just going around our template with a pencil, and this is going to be our cut line on the bandsaw. He's got nice pressure down so it's not moving the template. I'm just going to bring in some hands here to help steady it while he shifts. And yeah, so a lot of that angle we are trimming off on the bandsaw as well, and these blanks are always going to be bigger than what you're going to get out of it, because you may want a wider deck. Oh yeah, we want to mark our drill holes. Just get that back on its line. Brilliant. So we've got our outline and our holes where we're going to drill for the trucks. So next job, we need to take this over to the bandsaw, and we're going to trim on this line. Okay, so we're here at the bandsaw. Normally best practice would be to have this guide system down nice and low, so you could see that could probably drop a little bit more, but because of this sweep, this curve, as we drop that down, we want this to be as close and stable to the table as possible. So if that was right the way down, the guide system is going to start fouling on this top edge. So we give ourselves a little bit of a gap to allow us to keep coming around this cut without getting hampered on the guide system. Okay, so we've cut this up to our pencil line on the bandsaw, and we've just gently brought that in on the belt sander. Now we need to put a slight radius on this, and and we're going to use fairly accessible hand tools, but you could use something like a router. You could get a little spoke shave on here just to take off that hard edge, but we're going to use a combination of hand sanding and then maybe something, if you've got some sort of mechanical sanding, this could be something like a flap disc. We're going to use the little POWERFILE, a little Black & Decker POWERFILE, and that's going to really quickly just knock off this hard edge, and then we're going to use a sanding block just to blend that shape in. So presenting the tool about 45 degrees to the kind of flat of the board, and we're just going to, like I say, make almost a 45-degree chamfer, not deep. We don't want to go too deep and make this edge pointy. We want this to be a nice round, so we're going to knock off this edge at 45 degrees, but not too deep. I think maybe a little bit more. So by tilting the POWERFILE just slightly, it's just starting to encourage that little radius to start. So we've got the beginnings of a radius on the top edge of the deck, and then a little bit of hand sanding is really going to bring that shape in. And take your time with this. This is, we're finishing now. We're trying to get the final look on that edge. And there we go, got a nice soft radius on that now. So we're going to do this top and bottom around all of these edges. So we've been around with our POWERFILE just to knock the edge off, and then we've hand sanded in that little radius there just to make that nice and smooth all the way around on all edges. 5mm drill bit, and this is a lip and spur drill bit, and we've got a little breakout board underneath just to support the cut. We've got 8 holes to drill. So we're just going to use a random orbit sander just to get rid of any little spots where we've been working on the top of the deck here and it's been scuffed on the bottom. You could put an oil on the bottom here, you could paint this or spray it, something like a lacquer, anything to give it a little bit more water resistance really. What I would say though is do not oil this top, because we need the grip tape on here and we don't want it to you know, stop the adhesive from sticking the grip tape to the deck. But you could put a paint, a lacquer, anything like that, that's not going to kind of cause a barrier for the adhesive to stick it. So a quick buzz over with the sander. I'd recommend the soft interface just to come around those curves, but that's done a great job of cleaning up all those nasty marks of glue where we were marking out, and just giving it a nice smooth finish. So that's about it really. We're pretty much finished with our skateboard. Of course we've got to apply the grip tape, but you could decorate this however you wanted and put whatever finish you want. Just remember not to oil that top because we need that grip tape to adhere to the top there. So that's it. Another woodworking wisdom. We've made our own skateboard, we've made our own press, we've stuck the laminations together to make this really cool little object. And the last thing to do is to test it out. We'll see you soon for more woodworking wisdom. If you've enjoyed this, don't forget to give us the thumbs up, hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you soon for more free content.